speaking with the founder of Just College Football, Steve Hiegel. And Steve, let's pick your brain. And what was your initial reaction to the rankings that came out last night?
Shock, if nothing else. I agreed with a couple of them, but I can't fathom how Cincinnati could not be in the top four. I know they've had a couple games in the last couple weeks where they've won, but not won by an overwhelming amount of points. But still, I mean, the fact that they're number 6, I just was shocked and I scratched my head. So I don't know what to say.
The one that surprised me, and then I looked into it, was Mississippi State. And where it got me was they're the only team listed that has 3 wins over other teams inside the top 25. So clearly the committee has their rationale. You talk about Cincinnati being a surprise. Was there any positive surprises?
I think a positive surprise to me was Michigan State being that high. I thought they would be 5 or 6, to be honest with you. I know they did beat Michigan, but other than beating Michigan this past weekend, they haven't really beaten anybody else. So, I mean, I saw them play in person, play Rutgers. They looked very good. They beat Rutgers back in early October, and they beat a couple of other non-conference teams. I know Miami was one of them, but they beat Northwestern. I mean, they haven't really had a great win besides Michigan. So the fact that they are undefeated 8-0 is great, but the bulk of their tough games are now going to come in the month of November. They got to play Penn State and Michigan State before the month closes, before November is over. So we're going to see how good they are and see if they can finish in the top 4.
Let's talk Oklahoma, because I know you and I chatted about them back in the past. Preseason, they were granted the preseason #1 trophy and possibly Heisman caliber quarterback. Well, lots changed, and now they're sitting at the 8th spot. Do you feel that's a good spot where they should be, or do you think that it's just wrong where Oklahoma's sitting?
I think that's a pretty good spot. They probably could even be a peg or 2 lower, but they're ahead of the other Big 12 conference teams that have a loss, and they're going to have to play all those teams in the next couple of weeks. So you're going to find out how good they are, including the new quarterback, Caleb Williams. I mean, I know there's been talk of him being an outside Heisman candidate. I don't think he's played enough games, obviously, but we'll see. See how he goes through November and finishes the season. But regardless, they have to play all the tough teams in the Big 12. So I think they should have been down a spot more too, but I guess you can say that was the right spot considering who is behind them, the conference opponents who all each have 1 loss and they don't, even though they should have lost a couple games, they just haven't.
So give me I'll assume Clemson is 1A on this list, but so if you want to answer with Clemson or go 1B, but give me a team that you thought was going to do surprisingly well and they've done surprisingly bad, and then the opposite as well, that you thought would have a rough season and now is having all from your viewpoint, a great season.
Well, the first I thought have a rough season, had a great season is Michigan State. I mean, I thought they were going to be about like 5-7 this year. I mean, they've done a tremendous job. They're 8-0. I mean, they still have to play a couple tough conference opponents in the Big Ten. But I mean, you figure even if they finish 10-2 and then win their bowl game 11-2, that's an incredible season for the Spartans. Considering I thought they would be barely a bowl team, if probably even not this season. As for the reverse, I'd really have to think. Surprised me in just the last couple weeks. I thought they'd be better. They were playing well when I saw them play in person at the end of September. Was Boston College. And they've kind of fallen off in the last couple weeks. They were 3-0. I saw them play Temple after they won that game before ACC conference play started, and then they haven't done well. I know they had their quarterback get injured, and but still, I thought they would do much better than they have this season. So I have to say that. Another team that surprised me that I thought would be good but not as good as Wake Forest. I mean, look at them; they're in the top 10 of the rankings. I thought they'd be probably about a 8, maybe 9 win team, but I mean, they're already 8-0 now. So I mean, you're looking at double-digit wins for that team.
So this is ironically turned into a Michigan State press conference almost. I have Kenneth Walker as my leader of the Heisman as of today. Who's your number 1 as of today?
I have Kenneth Walker too. Yeah, I think he's the winner right now. If they voted today, I think he's going to get a strong push in the last month or so of the season from Matt Corral from Ole Miss, Bryce Young, of course, Alabama. They're all going to be up front in the mainstream media as well as in a lot of big games. A lot of people now I've seen saying Bryce Young, but I don't think he's number one as of right now. I think he's up there in the top 5. You're going to see some votes for Caleb Williams from Oklahoma because he's played so well in the several games he's played. But I think you need to have a bigger sample size for him. And you never know. There could be another dark horse to come along in the next, couple weeks. But I think that game Saturday really cemented Kenneth Walker III as number 1 after that great performance against Michigan. Now, of course, he's got to back it up. They have a couple more tough games, like I said, against Penn State and Ohio State, along with a couple other Big Ten games. So we'll see how he does, through the month of November.
Let's leave you with this question. And I don't expect you to have everybody's schedules memorized for the stretch run. But if you had to project out based off of where current rankings are versus where you think teams will do head to head, how do you see the Final Four? Who do you see as the Final Four?
Georgia, I think, will be number 1. I think even if they lose to Alabama, say they get to the SEC title game unscathed, they lose to Alabama in a close game there, or even beat them, they're number 1. Number 2, I would have to say, is going to be most likely the Big Ten champion, whether it's Ohio State or Michigan State, how that'll even out. Of course, you're not going to have much from the ACC this year, because Clemson's not a factor, and Pitt just lost this past weekend to Miami, and I think that was the one chance they might have had. I think even if Wake Forest somehow even goes undefeated, I don't think they get in the Final Four. The third team, I'd have to say it comes down to either Oklahoma or Cincinnati. I think Oklahoma, if they run the table, they're through, and they'll have that third spot. If they slip up, Cincinnati could take that spot. I just seem to think Oregon's going to slip up between now and the end of the season. And then the fourth spot, I think, would be Alabama, assuming they run the table minus even losing a close game to Georgia or winning against Georgia. I think it would be number 4. I was surprised, though, to finish this off. I was surprised that Alabama was second in the initial rankings. I mean, not that Texas A&M's a bad team, but that's not the fact that they were over some teams that were undefeated with 1 loss. I know it just shows Alabama's a brand and it's Alabama, but I think they should have been 3rd or 4th.
Yeah, I guess they got credit for tough schedule. I mean, the
and they do play some tough.
The
SEC every week. Yeah,
I think had 7 teams in, and that was the most out of any conference. So I think they got bonus points for being SEC members. And I just got out of a press conference. I mean, some people think that they should have not even released it till 2 weeks out. So instead of 4 weeks out, but anyway,
yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah.